So Mike Park, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So I know the basic timeline, but what was sort of the moment that made you want to lean into the label? Like I know Skank and Pickle ended, but like what kind of made you decide you really wanted to lean into Asian Man Records?
It was actually during the time I was in Skank and Pickle. We had our own label called Dill Records, which was just a collective amongst all the members. And it was during that time I kind of felt like this is kind of fun, and I felt like this is something I, I might be good at. I felt like I could be good at it. I had a good ear for the bands we had played with. What a great opportunity to be in a touring band and to have these local bands open up for you all across the United States. And that's how I met bands like Less Than Jake. They opened up for us in Gainesville, and I thought, wow, what a great band! I wish we could put out their record. I don't even know if I was thinking that at the time, but I thought they were a great band. And the same thing with Slapstick in Chicago, MU330 in St. Louis, and so I eventually started asking these bands if they would be on our record label, which we had started called Dill Records. And so even though it was a collective, I was doing all the work, and I felt, yeah, this is fun, and I think I could be good at this.
Was there a pivotal moment like once you had launched Asian Man? Was there kind of like a pivotal moment where you thought, "Wow, I'm really onto something"?
Yeah, it was, and it was pretty fast.
Okay.
So May of '96, that's when my relationship with Skanka Pickle um, ended, and so it was actually I was driving home from my last show with the band from UC Santa Barbara to my home, which is about a 4 hour drive. And during that drive, I thought to myself, I can't do this as a collective anymore. I need to start my own thing. And I came up with a name on that drive and just started like that. That day, I think I just went full steam ahead. And within, gosh, the first year, it was just everything. Scott was so big on the underground, and it just it went crazy really quickly. I was selling. It was just me. My dad helped a lot too at the time, but it was very exciting, but a lot of work too. And I just knew this is something special. This it shouldn't be this easy to make money. I thought.
Mm. It's a good, yeah. That's well. So, what has it been like for you over the years operating with an anti-capitalist mindset in such, a hyper-capitalist country?
I don't know. Everyone moves at different speeds. Um, so more power to them if that's what they want and makes them feel successful. For me, I just wanted to do things where I could control it. So bigger, I don't necessarily feel like that's better. Bigger is not better. I just wanted to be able to maintain Asian Man where I can do everything. So I can still do mail order, I can still do accounting, I can still do the placing the orders, listening to the test presses, everything that different labels would have different people doing in different departments. I thought, how much can I do as a one man label? And I kind of compare myself to these big labels that have a staff of 50 and go, well, I think I'm doing pretty good considering it's just me. And I know and my limitations, I know my limitations, and I'm very upfront with the bands. And that's why I'm able to have good relationships with the artists. So I'll just straight up say, I'm not going to do shit for you. If you want to be on Asian Man, this is what I do. I don't do. We don't have a retail for record store placement. We don't have a radio department. We don't have a press department. We have nothing. All I can do is social media, and you can be part of this community that I've built.
So when people say things like labels are obsolete, how do you respond to that? And then furthermore, going on that, what do you feel like the role of the label is today?
I don't disagree. I think I'm surprised people want to put their records out with me. I tell artists all the time, let's say a band has put out records with me, I tell them there's no reason to even be on Asian Man. You can do this all yourself. It's so easy. Um, which yeah, obviously is not a good business maneuver by myself, but I think that people just want to be part of the community of, and that's all I can think of is they just want to be part of Asian Man. If it's an older musicians, maybe it's something they grew up listening to and they just wanted to be part of that Asian Man family. If it's a newer band, um, it could be that they just don't know better. They just want to say they're on Asian Man.
Well, have you ever talked bands out of doing a record with
Oh,
you?
oh, many times.
Really?
Oh yeah.
They're just like, okay, you're right. We're not going to do it.
Yeah, it's just like the one band that I screwed up on was this band called Scowl. They're a hardcore band from San Jose, Santa Cruz area, massive now. And I turned them down probably 5 times. They just kept coming back saying, "Come on, let's do it." And it was during the pandemic. My head wasn't on straight. I was just like, I can't do it. And that's the one where I was like, man, if anything, I should have done that one. But yeah, I've done it a lot. I've just said like, you can do better without me.
Well, what goes into your decision-making process when you decide to bring a band on?
If I'm real good friends with them, there'll be someone in the band that I'm really close with. That could be one factor. Obviously, if I really love the music, actually, I think the friendship oh will overlap. Well, not overlap. The friendship will take precedent over the music. I've definitely put out music where I don't even like this, but I like this person. I'm gonna put it out. So I guess that's not. It's not unnecessary to have great music, but obviously, if the music is great and I'm moved by it, that's pretty cool. I'm trying to think what else is important for me putting out a record. If they get it, if they're part of the community, the punk community, if I see they're active, putting on shows in their hometown, helping, not making it a competition, but always out to help touring bands, and they come through, and just kind of they get it.
Mm-hmm.
They have punk roots, and they get it.
So, well, I'll ask you about something specific. What one of my favorite bands to this day is Alkaline Trio. And I'd imagine that kind of goes back to Slapstick. So what was kind of that process like for you? Because Alkaline Trio was different than Slapstick.
Oh yeah. So they sent me the first songs they sent me was the 4 songs that are on the For Your Lungs Only 7-inch. The first song I ever heard by them was Cooking Wine, when I pushed play on the cassette player. And the first thing, I think I'm the only one who ever thought this, I thought they sounded like They Might Be Giants. If you listen to Cooking Wine, it sounds like They Might Be Giants when Matt comes in with his vocals. And also at the time I was so busy, I almost didn't do it. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm just so busy, but I really liked it. And I kept going back to it, listening to it. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, let's do it. Thank God I did. I probably wouldn't be a label anymore if I didn't release the Alkaline Trio.
I never would have made that association, but as you were saying that, I'm like listening to that riff in my head and the intro verse, and I kind of hear it too. Actually, I hear a little bit of a They Might Be Giants.
It's not the riff. It's strictly Matt's voice when he comes in.
Okay,
he just these open chords, and then he starts singing. And he's like, Sorry, I'm late. It just had this like
Mhm.
cadence where I'm like, sounds like they might be giants.
So walk me through yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great. Walk me through the kind of timeline with Plea for Peace. You know, that's something that I paid attention to when I started going to shows, and that really, helped me frame my political perspective growing up. So what
Sure.
kind of was the timeline there?
So we had done Ska Against Racism in '98, and then '99 is when I know I started Plea for Peace. Then I'm trying to remember exactly why. I can't remember if this because I know I wanted to open up a youth center in San Jose that was a place that catered to kids who weren't into what society deems as normal, like sports. People. I wanted to like have a place where kids who are into art or music, um, poetry, just maybe like the outcasts. And so I just can't remember what came first, if it was the tour or the idea of the teen center. Um, but the main focus was this youth center, and I thought, well, we can do these tours and provide some kind of alternative, just like this capitalist machine of going on tour, seeing how much money you can make. It's like, well, let's do a tour where we can donate 10% of the proceeds to a charity. We can do food drives in each city, and have people see like this tangible visual at the show where they would just be just trying to quantify the amount of food. You just see just boxes of food, cans of food, just piling up near the front entrance. It was a pretty cool feeling, and I think it was a cool visual for people to see that.
How easy is it, would you say, to kind of build these alternative structures today? Like when you kind of see what's happening in the United States, I mean, everything is just so expensive. Grocery prices are going through the roof. And, you have social media, which I feel like in some ways has made things easier, but in other ways, maybe not so much. What's kind of your assessment of all that?
If how easy it would be to do something like this today, like Plea for Peace, I don't see any issues other than it just needs a young mind behind it. I've been asked a lot, especially the last like 4 years, like really need to do something with Plea for Peace, but unfortunately, I just can't. I'm in my mental health is not in a place where I can um, steer that ship right now. So I I still think it's something that's very important, but it will take someone younger than I that has the drive to still tour and be on the road, because it's important. If you're going to do these tours, you got to be out there, and you can't just be like sitting behind a desk at home or watching TV on the couch while people are working so hard on the road, because being on the road isn't easy. And so yeah, I definitely think someone can do this. I think anyone can do this who has the passion.
So I know you get asked a lot about starting a label, and I know you wrote a document about it. I've not seen that document, but I was wondering, could you kind of share some of the highlights, like when you're asked about starting a label, what's some of the advice you have?
Yeah, I wish I should read it right now. What does it say? It starts out saying like, I don't know what I'm doing. I no one ever taught me how to do this. I just made up my own rules, and I said that's like the biggest thing is there are no rules. You just do it however you think works for you. You just kind of make up your own rules. And I just like list a lot of numbers for like places to get things pressed. Where do you get records pressed? How does it work? Um, where to get t-shirts, stickers, and just try to give them some insight to like distribution, places where they can get digital distribution, physical distribution, which is a lot harder, especially for a new label. Just tell them you're not going to make money at this. 99.9% of you who are starting a label don't go into this thinking you're going to make money. If you're going to do it for fun. And if you happen to make money, then great. But otherwise, get ready to lose money.
What does punk rock mean to you today?
I feel like punk rock is about being smart. It's not. I hate the idea of like this anarchy. You think of punk as like anarchy or fashion. I don't think punk is fashion. I think punk is a frame of mind. It's about being smart. It's about helping others. It's about being compassionate. It's about community, supporting each other in times of need, just rallying around each other and being a support. And just being open-minded to everything, each person's differences.
How would you say it's evolved over the years?
I think obviously in the early days there's a lot of homophobia in punk. And I know artists, that was just the way it was. I mean, as a young teenager in the early 80s, I'm sure I was thrown around homophobic slurs, and you hear it in a lot of the music of that time. And I know those bands, it's not a descriptor of those bands these days. It was just the time. So I think it's changed where bands, I'm trying to think. I think that was a weird one to start on. It just evolves. The sound has evolved. It's such a broad term, punk. You can have a band that's like Agnostic Front, that's punk. You can have a band that like 100 Gex, who people would consider punk. Then you can put in a band like Beat Happening from like the Calvin Johnson K Records. That's punk. Everything sounds completely different, but it's punk. I would even call like Ani DeFranco. That's punk. Merle Haggard, punk. Billy Bragg, punk. You listen to Billy Bragg, and then you listen to Black Flag. There's no similarity sound-wise, but equally punk.
So let's talk some of your more recent music. You started doing some music for children. Talk about that. Did that have to do with becoming a parent yourself, or what all went into that?
Oh, 100%. It was me trying to just stop my kids from crying when they were babies. And so I would just kind of strum the guitar and make up melodies. And I noticed like certain melodies, they would just stop crying. I remember there's a Beach Boys song. I don't even know the name of the song. I probably didn't even know the lyrics. It goes bum 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 ba dum bum. It's one of those Beach Boys songs, and I would just make up lyrics, and they would just, my daughter would just stop crying, and just kind of look at me. And that was interesting. I was like, maybe I should just write some children's songs. And so I just started. And it's crazy because it's been a long time now. It was like 15 years ago that I put out that record. Maybe not that long, but it was a while ago. Time just goes by so fast. And now that my kids are 15 and 17, I just lost the interest to put out children's music.
Do they still spin those records? Do they appreciate it?
Oh, no, hell no. No.
Do they think you're cool?
No.
Are you? No, they don't.
No. No, not at all. They don't listen to any of my music. They don't listen to punk. And it makes me super sad that they don't want to go to shows. They're both into rap. and hip hop, but it's like, man, I just got to support them. I can't like make them want to be like me. I think that's the worst thing you can do. I think the kids just want to be as different from their parents as humanly possible, and maybe it's something they'll circle around and get interested in. But then I see other musicians' kids are following in their parents' footsteps, and I'm like, gosh darn it, why not my kids?
Well, I mean, it could still happen.
Yeah, it could, but they're not even interested in music. Playing music. I tried to force them. They played saxophone, drums, guitar, and it just didn't stick.
Mm. So, like going through just the history, and you don't have to say something specific if you don't want to, but in your position as the person putting out the music, I feel like it's inevitable that you're going to have moments where you're the lightning rod for whatever. Um, did you ever have those moments where things kind of fell on you, things came down on you? And did what's kind of a situation that you wish you would have handled differently, or do you have any of those moments?
Not really. I remember like the Lawrence Arms. I remember early when Brendan was on tour. I can't remember the band they were on tour with, but they kept seeing like posters of the other band at the venues they were playing. I remember him getting mad at me, like, "Where's our posters?" Like, I sent them out to these venues. I can't force them to put them on the wall. And that's when I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna do less because I didn't want that responsibility. And so he triggered me to actually start doing less. Where I was like, I'm not gonna send posters to venues anymore. I'm gonna, if the band wants to do that, they can do it on their own. And I remember like the next day he called and said, "Oh, I saw our posters were up at this venue," but it's kind of a weird story. So, but yeah, I just thought, I'm going to do less. Less is more, and but just being open with the bands, it's really hasn't caused any friction. Yeah, it's been a great ride so far.
That's awesome. Well, when you have to make decisions about just distributors and printers and things like that, what goes into your decisions? I mean, have you been using the same vendors for a long time, or what just goes into your decision making when you choose who you would like to work with?
With vendors, it's who's the cheapest. That's what I'm doing. I'm like, what's the cheapest? So, yeah, I'll jump around, but I've been with the same t-shirt guy, this guy named Brian Hanover, who I met. He was the t-shirt. He was selling merch for 7 seconds when we toured with him in '94, and so I've been with him for a while. Like printers, I've jumped around, but I've been steadily using a place that's kind of local, so the shipping isn't that much. It's always about like finding the best deal. We do all the assembly. Actually, my mom helps. She's 87. She still helps assemble records. So I kind of do the math and what's the best pricing, and that's how I roll with that. With distributors, it's I'm actually switching digital distributors now, just trying to find a better deal for myself. The physical distribution, we've never had a good, strong presence, even when physical was the majority or the only medium in music, and that's just hard. It's hard to get your records in stores, but we do have a distributor, and they are able to fill uh, orders and get it in stores, but it's not a lot. That's the biggest complaint I do have from bands is we never see our record in the store, and I'm like, oh well, sorry about that.
Well, what's kind of your take on just how the streaming services have changed the game? And I know this is something label owners get asked all the time, but
Yeah,
what's kind of your assessment of all that?
Man, I love it. I'm not going to be a hypocrite because I love it as a consumer. It's like this is the greatest invention ever that I can have any song I want at my disposal in a second. It's as a music lover, it's the greatest thing. As a as a business owner, I don't think it's that bad. Obviously, the royalty rate sucks, but what the hope is that they buy the physical, they'll buy the vinyl, and they'll spin it at their house when they want. But when they're on the go, they'll stream it on their phone, and so you're still getting, albeit small amounts of royalties, but it adds up. It can be very lucrative. And if you're hitting, if you have a song that goes viral and you're hitting some kind of youth audience, man, it really adds up. So I'm not against streaming. I really like it as a consumer and as a business owner. I feel like if we could just get the royalty rate a little bit higher, just even like a few cents higher, it would be great. But I'm not complaining with how it's going even now.
Well, I think that's a really healthy attitude. I mean, I'm with you. The royalty rate should be higher. I'd say significantly so. But you know, I think that's a really healthy attitude because it's one of those things. The technology is not going to go away, so you really have no choice but to adapt to it and you know figure out a way to make it work for you. Um, have you noticed like because now I think more people are buying vinyl than anything else. Like, how has that impacted your decisions? You know, when you're making product calls, like how many CDs to print versus how much vinyl to print, like has that evolved over the years?
Oh my god, yeah. It's when I started, I would make 1,000 CDs just as promo. That's just strictly promo. I don't even make CDs for 60% of the artists anymore. I just do vinyl. And so if I do CDs, I usually do like a pressing of 200 or 100. If the band tours a lot, I feel like the bands that tour a lot, they still somehow sell CDs on the road, but man, I'm not selling much mail order.
I think these days when people buy CDs, it's just because they just want the band to sign something for them. Because I mean, I personally don't even have a way to play CDs, and I know like I'm not, you know, like that doesn't mean nobody does, but like I personally like I thought about it. I'm like I still have a ton of CDs. I actually have no way to play any of them at the moment.
Yeah, I don't have a CD player in the house. I'm trying to think. Do I? I don't even think I do. Yeah, I do have one in my car. So sometimes I do listen to some CDs in the car. But a lot of people, all the new cars don't have CD players. So
Right.
moving forward, it's going to be extinct after X amount of time.
How long do you think we have
For the CD,
for
who
CDs?
knows? Everything comes back. Like who thought vinyl was going to come back?
Right. Well,
It's
and now
nostalgia.
yeah. Well, that's the thing, like, now cassettes, like, people are kinda having fun with cassettes again, which I think is really neat, and so I wonder, I'm like, well, are CDs gonna get, like, their moment in the sun, or has it not been quite long enough yet?
I don't think it's been long enough. I'd say another like 15 years. The CDs will come back. I
I
don't. Yeah, I don't understand cassettes because I didn't even like cassettes when I was young because they would just always get like tangled in your cassette player and then you were just screwed.
well, they would always whenever the battery was low, they would be in slow motion, and that's how you knew you needed new batteries because your music would sound like it was, like, in slow motion. And then you had
That's
to put in
right.
batteries. I remember that. I mean, I had, like, a Walkman as a kid and stuff, and then whenever the tape sounded distorted and in slow motion, it would just be you had to get a new one. And also they were a little fragile. I mean, I destroyed a couple cassettes just from listening to them so much when I was a kid. I mean, like my copy of Nirvana's Nevermind when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I listened to that so much that it just eventually it just stopped
Oh,
because it didn't
sure.
work. it just wouldn't work anymore, and I had to buy a new one.
Yeah,
And by then, I got it on CD, but yeah. And then do you
yeah.
remember when like? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, like, do you remember too, like the first portable CD players were so not great. Like the CD would skip constantly. Like they were just very faulty products. But everyone was excited to get one anyway because it was new.
Are you talking about like the Walkman type of like?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Like the
I don't even
first
think I
one.
had one.
Really?
Yeah, I think I just had the stereo or a boom box with a CD. Or getting like a boom box with a CD player, and you push the eject and it flips up. I thought that was nice. Gosh, yeah, I don't know if CDs will come back. I'm thinking about it more. I think the reason vinyl came back is it's that analog sound is still, you can't replicate that digitally. So the feel of putting that needle on the groove and hearing that little crackle, it's you just can't do that with CDs. I'm trying to think, like, why would I get a CD when it's the same sound as streaming?
Right.
So yeah, screw that.
Yeah, no, I mean I do see that. I mean I think vinyl in some ways has kind of stood the test of time for that reason. And then these days it's like, for the for the people who want to collect music, it's just like, well, why would you not just do vinyl because it's so convenient? I mean, CDs had their day because they were a little more convenient than vinyl. You could bring them in your car, but now with streaming, it's like, well, why? Yeah, like CDs are almost not worth seeking out. But then why did cassettes get another run in the sun though? So I don't know. I mean, I
I
guess
think cassettes got it because, well, it is analog also, but they were able to, for the DIY bands that were doing like little DIY tours, they were able to make like 50 copies, and not it wouldn't cost them a ton of money. They could, for a couple $100, they'd have something to sell at their shows. That's yeah, I just don't understand. Yeah, the cassette thing I don't understand at all.
we're gonna have to revisit this in like 15 years. See if CDs came back.
Yeah,
Well,
100%.
well, then I go to this. You'll be like, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pressing thousands of CDs again. We do it.
yeah, put me on the calendar. 2039.
Do a lot of the young bands still reach out to you?
They do. I've made a conscious effort to not be that dinosaur label. I really want to work with younger artists. So um, it's not where I want it to be honest. I feel like I'd like to have more younger bands aware of the label, because I feel like if you don't progress, you're gonna be this nostalgia label, and which I could easily do and make a comfortable living, but I it's no fun. I want to work with young bands who are excited to see their first record, hold it in their hand, and you see that excitement, or the first time they go on their tour, even if it's just like a weekend, to, if they're from the Bay Area, San Francisco, like going to LA for the first time. It's cool. It's endearing to see their excitement. It's no fun working with old jaded musicians.
Do you have a favorite part of the production process?
Do nothing popped out when you asked the question. What's my favorite? I guess when it arrives. When it arrives, I'm like, oh, especially, it's gotten a lot better. The turn times for vinyl were terrible. During the pandemic, we were waiting for one record. We waited 15 months for it to arrive.
Oh, wow.
Poor band. The band, they were called the Abrupters from Buffalo. And like, think about recording your record and waiting 15 months for it to come out. I felt so bad for them. But yeah, having seeing it arrive and just taking it out and looking at the vinyl. I usually order random color, so I'm always eager to like see what colors I got. And the reason I get random color is it's cheapest. It's the cheapest option, and you get some cool variants. So, yeah, that's the best part. Seeing the finished product.
What about like just listening to the master for the first time? I mean, do you get a certain rush when that happens, and has that stayed consistent through the years, or does it feel different now that you've been doing this a couple minutes, or what's the process there?
If it's good, yeah. If it's not good, let's say the record is okay, and it's like, it's only okay. But I don't tell the band that. I just go, oh man, good job. So that part can be awesome if the songs are amazing. Like we had this band called Bat Boy from Richmond, Virginia, and their record I thought was so good. I was just listening to it nonstop once I got the final mix, and so that was exciting. But sometimes records aren't that great, and you just kind of like, oh, all right, I'm already in it. I can't not put this out. So I would still say the best part is seeing the finished product arrive.
Have you ever had a moment where you couldn't put something out, where you had to put a stop on something?
No, but I should have. I definitely should have a few times.
Fair enough. Well, so moving forward then, what do you kind of see as, the future with Asian Man and projects that you have coming up? And then the second part of that question is how do you want to be remembered?
I want to, with Asian Man, I'd like to concentrate more on my own music. Because I'm a really prolific songwriter. I've ghostwritten for bands in Japan. I have my own. I think people think I'm just like ska, like with my history with Skank and Pickle and Bruce Lee band, which I love. But I write
acoustic stuff a lot over the years, though. You've done a lot of
acoustic. I did 2 acoustic records, but I also write. Even though I'm not the lead singer, I write all the songs for the band Kitty Cat Fan Club. I write all the songs for the band Ogi Kubo Station. So I'm constantly writing, and I think that right now brings me the most joy is writing. So I'm going to try to concentrate more on my own music and be really selective about who we bring on. It has to be a perfect situation for any new artists that we add to the label. And in terms of like what my hope to be remembered as is someone who was honest, who was fair in the music business, a business that is corrupt as corrupt can get. I just want to be like, I treated everybody as an equal and didn't do that I'll pat your back if you pat my back type of mentality. It was just like, okay, let's help everyone.
So I'd imagine most of my listeners are already familiar with you, but just in case anyone's learning about you for the first time, please go ahead and plug away. Where can people go to learn more about you and everything you got going on?
Yeah, AsianManRecords.com. You can, God, I barely even update the website anymore, but we're on all the socials. It's just at Asian Man Records, Instagram. I stopped doing Twitter, but I do Threads, Facebook, and TikTok, even though I don't. It's hard to come up with ideas on that platform. And we have a YouTube channel too, so it's pretty easy. If you just Google, you'll find us.
What made you stop doing Twitter? Out of my curiosity, I mean, I have a feeling I might know the answer, but I'd be curious to ask you directly.
Yeah, I didn't want to support Elon Musk. It was just a toxic environment. Well, all social media is toxic, no matter where you go. So but I didn't want to support that platform, And my whole thing now is I'm trying to stay out of my personal views. I'm trying to be more uplifting and not be so negative. And so my posts have changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. If you do some doom scrolling, you can see me on Twitter just like
Me too.
being angry. And it's like, I don't need this. I don't need to share my anger with other people, and I'm not winning any prize for this. So I'm just trying to be more optimistic, which is very hard to do. And I'm trying to be a better influence through my actions, that other people can have some kind of joy in their lives.
Well, Mike, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, heck yeah. Thank you for having me.